All right, good. So what I want to do now is I want to highlight two particular conundrums, two particular challenges that I think are faced in this area of ministry. The first is the tension between creativity and complexity, which is to say, creativity. There's a sense in which people in this area are engaging in creative things. Music, there's a lot of musos in this area. And I think there's actually there's a deeper connection there. Jonathan Edwards, he observes that God has ordained in the scriptures that we sing. He's given us a book, the Psalms, full of songs and poems. And he says, is it that God has commanded us to sing because those things have a tendency to move our affections? That things like songs and poetry and art move us. And that's actually part of Christian discipleship, is being moved by the gospel. And so there's a connection there between, there are things that are creative in their nature that are part of this area of ministry. So there's a need for creativity. But this particular area of ministry also has a huge amount of complexity. So there's the administration of pulling together a service. You got to talk to a lot of people and you got to work with a lot of spreadsheets to get all that happening. And you got to think about what's happening next Sunday, because you can't do exactly the same thing. And so you got to thinking, what are we going to do this Sunday? And so you've always got to be planning ahead. You can never plan a good service if you only start on Thursday. So you need to plan ahead and be organised. And these areas of kind of running services, music, tech, they're very heavy on processes. Running an audio desk is hard. And so if you're going to equip people to do these ministries, you're going to need to have a lot of processes and clarity around what people are doing. That takes organisation. And you need to build teams. And you need to develop leaders. You can't just get up and play the guitar every week and just do it yourself. You actually need to build teams to do this. And there's a tension between creativity and complexity. Those things pull in the opposite directions, which is to say the people who are the most creative are often not the most equipped to deal with a lot of complexity and administration and spreadsheets. They want a guitar, not an Excel spreadsheet. It's a rare combination to actually find somebody who is very creative and organised. But both are absolutely essential if we're going to get this area of ministry firing. So I have a couple of reflections on three next steps. How are we going to hold these things in tension? The first thing is fight for the tension. Don't let it go. Creativity never happens by accident. And so you need to carve out time. You need to pay attention to it. Songwriting, that never happens by accident. Oh, maybe for some people. But for the most of us, if we're going to ever write a song, it's going to take some hard work. And so you need to carve out some time. Creativity doesn't happen by accident. But you can't just sit around writing songs the whole time. And so you need to feel that tension and fight for it. And so you need to pay attention to the complexity. If you never get around to getting organised and building teams and developing leaders, that will be a handbrake on the growth of this area of ministry. So first thing is feel the tension and fight for it. Second, hire the right person. Could be that there are some senior pastors out there. Who do you staff? How do you staff this area of ministry? So, hypothetical question for you. Do you hire the guy with the guitar, or do you hire the administrative monster? Which one are you going to hire? How are you going to resource this area if you want to get it cranking? Remembering that it's a rare combination to have both. I wonder if there's a bit of a rut for us that we hire the guy with the guitar. So what do? I'm going to take a leaf out of the book of Ecclesiastes. I think there is a time to hire the guy with the guitar, and there is a time to hire the administrative monster. And I think there's no easy answer. You can't just do this or do that. I think what you need to do is you need to pay attention to your own context, your own church, and the particular needs. A couple of reflections. Smaller churches, you'll probably be feeling the short-term pain of, we need somebody who can play some music for us. And so it could be that church plant, a small church. You kind of just need the guy with the guitar. Get some people together, sing some songs. But if you do that, you'll pretty quickly hit a growth barrier. And so as you move towards being a medium church, you need to, that's where you need to pay particular attention to getting organised and actually building teams of people who can play music well, not just the one guy or girl. And so maybe if you're a medium-sized church, it's like, well, actually, we require a lot of leadership, organisation. But then as you move towards a larger church, actually you've got enough capacity to have both. And so you can have the creative genius who just cranks out songs. Fantastic. And you can have somebody else working together, getting this thing happening, organised. Because you need the pace setter. You need the person who can lead the team artistically, musically, creatively. You need them to set the pace. You kind of need it. But you need the administrative monster too. A couple of examples. Grace City Church, that's where I am. I am a bit of a jack of all trades and master of none. I can play the guitar. I'm not crazy good. I'm not a professional. I don't have that background. I only ever play in two keys, G or C, and I know how to use a capo really well. HBC, so they're a church up in Newcastle. They've got a guy, Sam Hilton. Is he here? Yes, Sam? He's not here. He is not the muso, and he is running this area of ministry. And what he's doing is he's equipping and raising up volunteers to do those things that he can't do, and kind of going, we need to think about what keys songs are sung in. So there's another example, Sam Hilton, HBC, not a muso, looking after this area. Or EV, so there's you, Hazy, you work together.
Yeah. I was just going to jump off that as well and say we did have a conversation with Sam that I will link into the group discussion here, a little video, because it was just a fascinating convo with him as someone who has landed in this area, moved sideways from another area of ministry and is looking to build up that team side of things. So I'll link that video in later tonight, hopefully.
Yeah, and he has the muso. I think, I don't know if they're employed, but there's a part-time guy. So there's a few examples. Third thing, know thyself. If you're working in this area of ministry, reflect on yourself and your own skills, capacities. Who am I? What am I strong at? What am I not? Be honest and get some help. Learn, develop. If you're not the muso, get some music theory under your belt. If you're the guy with the guitar and you don't like a spreadsheet, I don't know, ask for some help. Learn, practice. It's like music. So, creativity, complexity. There's a tension there. We need to fight for both and pay attention to who's doing what. Second conundrum problem peculiar to this area is what I've called, you called it, taming unicorns. So you may have heard the 70-30 principle when it comes to kind of ministry skills. I think Graham alluded to this morning. The idea is 70% of kind of skills in ministry are general and transferable. They're kind of, for example, if you're in any team, a lot of the skills you need are things like working in a team, being on board with the vision, demonstrating love and Christian character in that context. 30% are what we call ministry-specific skills. So if you're on the cafe, you've got to know how to pull a shot from the machine. For this area of ministry, services, tech, music, I don't want to say the 30% is bigger, but I want to say it's perhaps weightier. And what I mean by that is that there is a very firm bar for entry. You can either play the drums or you can't. And if you're going to be involved in that particular area of ministry, you can't just go bang, bang, bang.
Quoting someone?
And these particular skill sets, they take a long time to develop. It takes a long time to become proficient as a drummer, as a guitarist on the sound desk. That's why we call them unicorns, because they're sometimes a little rare. And I want to also argue there's layers of leadership, and I don't think these ministry-specific skill sets entirely disappear as you move up. I think it perhaps becomes less critical. You can, I think, run this area without having any musical skills, but I think there are some specific skill sets needed. Why is that a problem? Because it can become very difficult to actually create more team members. I think almost anyone could be a fantastic kids leader. Almost anyone could probably be part of a hosting team and do a great job. There's quite a large pool you can pull from and develop, but there is quite a small pool when it comes to some of these areas of ministry. You need someone who can play the drums. You either have them or you don't. At my church at Grace City, at our 6 p.m. Service, there are no drummers who attend that service. We don't have any. And if you have an urgent hole, there's not a lot you can do. You could teach someone to play the drums. That's going to take you 3 years. And even then, they might quit or not be very good. That's not a great use of time, I don't think. You could headhunt from other churches. Maybe you need to pop down to the other church and get a drummer from there. I feel like, yeah. Again, not a great solution, because they don't have a drummer then. We just pray to the Lord of the harvest, give us a drummer. We ought to be doing that. But can we do something before we have an urgent need? Before we need a drummer for this Sunday. So, can we do something beforehand? 2 practical things, 2 theological things. First, we need a good system for identifying people and their gifts. Lots of people in churches go unidentified. You may have a drummer and you don't know. The challenge is that you actually need an entire ministry ecosystem to have this working well. My church, Grace City, we have quite a clear membership structure, and so people will come through and they will do an onboarding, and then everyone kind of comes through that, everyone goes through the funnel, and then they will all get a ministry survey that will kind of tell us about what you can do, and there are some musical things on there. And so we will get that, and so anyone who joins our church, unless they lie, we will know if they can play the drums. So you need a good system for identifying people. And that's actually part of an entire ecosystem that you need to be paying attention to. But you can't just identify people and get them in. You also need to keep them. And I wonder if there's a rut here that actually we have a habit of taking people from music to put them in other areas. Is it that music ministry or anything like that, it's a stepping stone to more serious ministry, like leading a growth group. I wonder if there's a rut there for us that perhaps stems from a lack of clear theological vision around the value of this ministry. So we need to identify people, keep people. What kind of theological vision do we need? So 2 theological things. First, I think we need to envision people to see this as word ministry, that this is incredibly valuable ministry. Colossians 3:16, Paul says, "Let the message of Christ dwell richly among you as you teach and admonish one another." The psalms, hymns, spiritual songs. Your songs are a teaching ministry, which is incredibly influential. I think there's a relationship between a sermon and a song. Sermons, Yip Harburg, I said before, words make you think a thought, music makes you feel a feeling, a song makes you feel a thought. Sermons are more focused on the mind, but they exert a pressure on the heart, and you feel something. But when you sing after that sermon and you sing the right song in the right way, it drops and it hits your heart. And now all of a sudden you have felt the word of God in a powerful way that has a profound relationship with what you have just heard from the scriptures. So it is a word ministry, and you need to see it as part of your word ministries alongside things that are incredibly important, like your preaching and other ministries happening. So see it as a word ministry. When somebody walks late into church, they walk 10 minutes late, and they're like, I'm here for the word ministry. You say, no, you missed the word ministry. You've come for the other word ministry. Second, we also need a body theology. We can't just think individualistically, like if I'm playing the drums, then I'm not doing word ministry. We actually need to think body. 1 Corinthians 12, Paul says, we have different parts to play in this. And that actually being part of this thing, whether it's up here, whether it's up the back, you're part of something that's incredibly influential. Most people, songs and the things we do, they shape the underlying structures of people's worldviews. When you've sung certain songs 1,000 times, it will shape you theologically. It will shape your worldview. And so we need to pay attention to this ministry. And so we need to win people. We need to give people a firm, clear theological vision of this ministry to see it as valuable, so that when somebody who can play the drums really well says, I don't really want to do this, you can say, you're a bit of a unicorn. Would you play drums and do something, be part of something incredibly powerful in shaping, discipling people through ministry of the word, being part of that, so that they might feel the truths of the gospel, which is part of what it means to be a mature disciple. There's some conundrums.